Perfect. All right, Kat, if you would take it and introduce your friend Jill to the group, I'd appreciate that.
Okay, so I'm so excited to share with you all my friend Jill, who we met when our kids were starting kindergarten and about 25 years ago. And she has been one of my dearest and closest friends ever since. She is the one that talked to me into going to energy healing school. She's a phenomenal healer, minister. And one of the things that really stands out for me with Jill, besides her loving heart and always trying to uplift everyone, is that as long as I've known her, she has done amazing ceremonies for her circle of women, of which I have been so grateful to be a part of, at all of the solstices and equinoxes and different holidays. She is the best person I know in terms of doing rituals and ceremonies. So, and she makes everything so special. Her daughter just sent me a letter that my mom had written many years ago when Jill had a ceremony for her daughter as she was coming of age. So these are, and that was, gosh, Jill, how long ago was that? 20 years?
Well, she was 13. She was 13. And so that's 22 years ago.
22 years ago. And that she still had that letter. And that still meant so much to me. So even after all these years, like the different ceremonies you've done continue to have such a beautiful impact. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to my friend, Jill Wrubel.
More ado, please. I'm soaking it up. Oh, well, hello, everybody. And first and foremost, I want to extend my appreciation for you setting aside this time for you and sharing it with me. There's nothing more important than well-spent time. My hope is that to be able to offer some clarity of what ceremony and ritual is, some understanding of how it shows up in our daily lives on a routine basis, and that it might help boost your sense of self in your daily path. I read something really interesting this morning. Then I'm going to do an invocation. One sec. I read this local little newspaper, jigsaws and all this stuff. And it was a quote by Joseph Campbell. You must be willing to let go of the life we planned so we can have the life that is waiting for us. I mean, one of the things is that we can't be in control of it all. We can only control our thoughts. And then another dear friend of mine, she's a Jungian therapist, and she says, we do not invent myths. This could also be by Carl Jung or Joseph Campbell. We do not invent myths, we experience them. So I'm hoping we have a wonderful glimpses of bliss with this experience today. So with that, let us now, eyes open or closed, totally optional. Let's just take a moment to get settled, to center ourselves, to let go of the events of this day so far, and just breathe and breathe deeply and breathe deeper to allow ourselves to begin to enter the more sacred space within us. Remember that the quality of breath equals quality of life. When we breathe in fully in a balanced way, our creativity, our individuality is able to flow. When our breath is restricted, so are we. Breathe in and breathe out. And let us imagine that we are joining together sacred heart to sacred heart, connecting deep within ourselves and with each person on this call. With each breath in, connecting heart to heart. And with each breath out, releasing the day. Let our intentions be that we may deepen our connection between who we think we are and who we really are. May we listen to one another with compassion and curiosity. May we ask for what we need and offer what we can. And it is done. Okay, so I need to ask you all, and you can do it by a show of hands, and Kat, if you can help me count, like how many of you are aware of some sort of ritual or something in your life that you do? How many is that? Because I can only see 6 people.
It's hard to tell because a lot of people aren't on screen, but
Okay.
it looks like there's some thumbs up.
Maybe half. Okay.
You can.
Okay. And how many of you participate regularly in a ceremony or ritual with others? Okay. How many of you have absolutely no clue about it? And maybe even some angst about what is this crazy shit? Okay. All right. So I get to be very sharing of all aspects then. So here we go. Ritualistic celebration and sacred ceremony is used to create energy and to give back to the universe for the life we have. Every aspect, every kind we do, that's kind of there's always an exchange, and that's kind of a very basic description. It's a concept of power, but it's not to dominate anyone or anything. It's about creating our own power, so we don't feel we always have to hold on, that we have to hold in, that we have to hold back, that we have to hold up, and sometimes just holding on with each step we take through the day. It's how to direct, it helps with how to direct our power and be our authentic self, our true self. Sometimes those words I think are just so buzzed out there, people don't understand them. It's just to be like, to what wows us, what's our bag? Sometimes we go through life and 20 or 30 years later, and like my father-in-law always said, that's just not my bag. I don't like that. I don't want to play that game. I don't want this or that. History has revealed the celebrations of every civilization and tradition. And while the names of deities may be diverse, it's always the honoring of creator, universe, whatever it is that you may have a concept of, something inside yourself, outside yourself, that's bigger and in co-creation with us. When it comes to what we believe in, and beliefs are just what we decide to think about an awful lot. But when it comes to creation, I had a conversation just recently about astrology and planets, and they didn't believe in it. And I says, well, for me, I just think there's something going on, because how can we have the planets and the moons and the stars and the galaxies and all this stuff going on, and it affects people, it affects the trees with the sap rising and falling, it affects the ocean. So everything is connected. We don't have asteroids and planets and everything all crashing into each other. So there is an orchestration. And personally, I love the idea that there's something that I can be co-creating with that has the greater good in mind, and that I can be part of the microcosm in the macrocosm of this greater good. So it's I feel I always have something bigger than myself, more capable than myself, that has my back. So that's about the historic things of it. So next, today we're going to talk about what the definitions are, what sacred space is, the types of ceremony, which they're healing. They're about going through transitions, navigating through changing situations, celebrations, the stages of ceremony. There's a beginning, there's a middle, there's an end. We're going to do a little ceremony. I'm going to do a brief ceremony. It's going to be called a teaser. And then just a lot of the different salves of the universal salves, what they are: storytelling, singing, dancing, silence, and other things that can be incorporated, or none. Nothing ever needs to be elaborate. Nothing. It's always about intention. And any ceremony, a ceremony is lighting a candle, having an intention, breathing deeply, They don't have to be fancy. It doesn't have to be 30 or 40 people or hundreds of people, which is going to be going on at Stonehenge Tuesday or at other sacred sites around the world. It's fun for energy. Myself, I started doing these ceremonies about 30 years ago, and I love it when it's new people. I love it when they don't know a single word that I'm saying, and I have to come up with 6 or 7 other definitions. So much is said about, because in ceremonies about surrendering things. I know Sophia at a few of the Awkwardly Zen Friday afternoons I've done with her, and had a comment on she doesn't like the word surrender. And so I said, oh, but I know a lot of other words. There's some great meditations I've done recently. It's about plucking the weeds from the garden. So we're plucking things out to get rid of in our psyche, in our being that we don't want. So we can remove things. We can sacrifice. Oop, nope, we're not going to be in a slab and be tortured as a sacrificial lamb. Sacrifice is just to give up something. Just to give up something. There's also just letting it go, to let something go, because we do cling on to so many things. Last night I was gently nagging my husband about his never wanting to get up early in the morning, even like 8 o'clock, because 50 years ago when he was in college, he had to get up at 4 in the morning to psych himself up for a springboard diving. I've always got up early. And I'm like, that's old stuff. Give it up. Let it go. He goes, you're right. He says, honey, I don't want to be right. Well, kind of I do, but I don't want to be right. I want you to consider releasing that old story. Just let it go. Let's replace it with something else. And I don't know about some of you, but have you ever tried to decide you're going to start a new path, some new action, and you get all these little chattering voices and you just kind of can't do it? Because I know from personal experience, when you decide you want to start something new, you want to let something go, and you create that space to be filled up by that new, the ego, which we do need, but the ego goes crazy on hyperdrive about it doesn't want to change. It doesn't want to change. So it can be challenging. So when they say, be careful what you ask for, I just encourage people and me, it doesn't have to be big stuff. We make hundreds of little choices each day. And one of the things that I do each morning, 99 out of 100 mornings, I sometimes forget or get too busy. What little death? What can I release today? What's one thing I can do different this day? And then when you start with those little choices, then it shifts. Then it shifts. Does that make sense? Okay. One quick thing I want to read here. It's by Sarah Van Brennick. Some of us have remained dormant for years, oblivious to our genuine beauty, drugged senseless by our own numbing, disapproval, nagging doubts, and benign neglect. Coping strategies that once brought a sense of relief now only offer regret. To undo the damage and reconnect with our authentic selves, we need to take the plunge, confident that spirit is holding the net. Above all, we need to treat ourselves gently, with the kindness, with the tenderness that we would bestow on a child or an amnesiac who needs the patient reassurance of their true identity. Okay, so back in the 70s, the boomers, that's 70s, that's 50 years ago, the baby boomers started exploring the human potential movement. They were studying feminine philosophy and the Freudian psychotherapy and yoga and meditation, transcendental meditation. I took it back in the 70s. I paid $300. Now it's like $5,000 to $10,000 a person. And it varies if you're a couple or a senior or a student in college, but transcendental meditation. And one of my friends studied with Deepak Chopra, and she went to India twice with him. And so she had a group of us girls over, oh, I'm going to teach all primordial sound meditation. We're all excited. And then after we learned it, and she says, okay, that's going to be $300 each. And I'm like, we all thought it was free, but we did payment plans. But so it was a very common theme in that time, because in the web of life, people were beginning in mainstreaming to unearth that something that they were yearning to find within themselves. In the 1980s empowerment movement, being and becoming and finding a connection to that inner self, to something greater, became more and more prevalent. Both ritual and ceremony are an intent, with an intention or an attempt to invoke spiritual presence and blessing, honoring through action. A ritual is more of a repetitive sequence of actions in a certain prescribed manner to achieve desired results, much like in very strict religious practices, churches. The church back in the medieval days, it was to help the people through famine and things like that. And so that's how churches, started a lot of that. But so it was very strict dogma. The objective was to receive spiritual intercession and support for a hoped for outcome, a specific outcome. It was to ask for something, and the ritual became the means to achieve that end, but it was, again, structured with an intention of what the outcome would be. And it was done for years, centuries, with the same repetitive details, with instructions and the same outcome. So rituals, on the other hand, support changes human beings are going through to create a way to fit things together. A ceremony helps your mind expand, it lifts your mood, and your spirits rise. It's interesting, in South America, every morning, the mother and the grandmother bless each person as they leave the house. Their intention is to strengthen the family bond in each member's connection to spirit. Anybody heard of the gypsy robe in the theater? Before the curtain rises on opening night, the actors circle on stage. The previous gypsy from the production before wears the robe and bestows it upon the next actor. This person walks around the circle 3 times so everyone can touch, honor, and bless the robe. This also sets the intention for a successful run. And the wearer also visits each dressing room on that first opening night. So an example of like a rite of passage would be a christening. A ceremony is like a wedding. Traditions, hanging Christmas stockings or lighting the Chanukah candles. In a service, a gathering of people, any action performed in worship, whether it's Hindu puja, flowers to the guru, whether it's a liturgy in a Catholic mass, spiritual objects, like a Tibetan prayer flag, mantra. Pretty much everyone's familiar with Om. One of the most powerful times I ever had with an Om experience, I was with Marianne Williamson. She had, when she was in Michigan here at this area church for a number of years, and I was a parent chaperone, and there was 50 teens between 9th and 12th grade. And there was about 15 of us chaperones. And we went to Santa Fe, New Mexico. And one of the wonderful things we did, we climbed up into this Anasazi kiva up the side of this mountain. I can't believe we're climbing these ladders. And we're in this big space in the mountain, and we have 3 circles of people, and it's kind of dark and it's kind of cold. And she started us on this circle, and we were just doing rounds and rounds of Om for as long as you could. And everyone just kept doing it. It was so powerful. I mean, tears were streaming down a lot of our faces. It was just so present, so mindful, so in the moment. Etiquette, handshakes. Hello, how are you? Goodbye, thank you. Rituals are similar to prayers because it encourages us to enter a state of grace. Now, a state of grace took me a long time to really wrap myself around that and what the graces are. The graces are reverence, piety, compassion. No, back up. Piety, understanding, and common sense. Then comes your compassion and fortitude, your counsel, knowledge, which we have to obtain that through life experience before we have the wisdom. Graces are revealed to us. When we're in ceremony and the circle is cast and sacred space has been created, there's a different feeling. And that is where grace, a grace, can be revealed to us in our life. So I always encourage people for most ceremonies, when we're going on a journey or we're going into that space individually, if you want to have a paper and pencil, because you're going to get an insight. And we don't need long journaling. A word, a picture, an image, it could be an animal, it could just be a feeling. But a grace, they are revealed to us through ceremony and rituals too. Think of what the old bride thing, something old to connect to our ancestors, something new for the new relationship, something borrowed from the most fertile woman, but it doesn't mean just to assure children, fertility and creativity, projects, creativeness. So it's anything that is creation. Blue to connect to the goddess, the feminine aspect. And then the ring on the fourth left finger, because that vein runs to the heart. For most symbolic gestures, there's always some sort of myth or legend with it and what it represents. So ceremony does have some structure and guidelines. It's to help creatively align with the heart, with the desires of our inner being, our inner spirit, our inner essence. And inviting the power of spirit, not demanding, oh, give me this, or bargaining, oh, please, I'll be so much better if this happens. It's inviting the possibility for change without expectation. That's a biggie. Ceremonies are typically have a little magic in them. They're creative and healing. There's no rote way to do them. There's so many books on them. I have a number of books, and there's just so many things. Every time I pull out a book and it's like, oh, I never thought of doing a ceremony for that, or I never thought of that. And then I'll create it in my own way, because sometimes I don't like the particular props that may be involved. Everything that's a prop just helps the mind and the heart connect. That's the purpose of a sacred space, an altar. I know altar scares a lot of people, but it is a little space the size, and you put a cloth, just because it's cool to put a cloth for a designated boundary. And you can just start with a candle, and you can put other items, and I'll go over some of those later, but it signals the psyche, oh, this is time for self. And if we do something every day for self-care, it also is a reinforcement for the psyche that we are committed to our self-care, our well-being, how we feel about ourselves. We like to feel good about ourselves. We like to feel relief. We like to feel okay. We like to feel content and satisfied. And those are all just middle of the road. All those other feelings below them are all aspects of fear, and everything above relief are aspects of love. We're either on one side or the other. There's no middle road. We are either contributing to our self-care or we're not. Again, there's no really middle of the road. Doing nothing is on the lower half, below okay and relief. Years ago, it was actually when Kat and I were in energy school, our mentor and teacher and incredible wise elder said, when did it happen that being average, we were talking about school grades, but even as a person, like that being average, feeling okay was not enough, that everyone had to strive to be the wow factor and making a difference in the world. I mean, what's wrong with smiling at your neighbor or saying, I brought in your mail or took in your flowers that were delivered? That's lighting up. That is lighting up other people. That is making a difference. And with that, I have to read this other quote. It's a short one. Marianne Williamson. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. Your playing small doesn't serve the world. There's nothing enlightening about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. As we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. And as we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. That's the purpose that my intention with all ceremony is to create more light in me. Not in me, because we are light. It's shadows that are covering it. But just how to let it radiate out more, a little bit more. I mean, you can be in a totally dark room and you get a little pen light flashlight, the whole room's lit up. The whole room's lit up. A smile to a neighbor, a smile. I always, when I'm in a store these days, because I don't go to many stores, I don't go to many restaurants because I'm paranoid pandemic and very cautious. I have baby grandchildren. And I'm just always asking the server or the person at the counter, well, how's your day going? Is it all right? How much longer you got? And they just like, no one talks to anybody. I mean, remember back hundreds of years ago, Native American tribes in this continent, they'd have strangers come into their area, and they'd be giving them their own teepee. They'd be giving them women. They'd be giving them gifts. I mean, everyone was sharing everything. So I just love being able to say hello to people, like, how you doing today? I hope your day's going well. I hope your day's going well. So ceremony provides a bridge between the material and the spirit worlds. It is felt. It is a felt demonstration of how the power of the universe works. It provides a way to honor events in our lives that we want to sanctify. Okay, there's another word, sanctify. Sanctify just means to set apart, means consecrate, kind of make holy, to bless, to dedicate. It means to dedicate. It means to purify or cleanse. So it helps to honor those events in our life. And it doesn't mean it's all the big ones. I'm going to go through some, I tell you some different ones that, we can do, or you may already even be doing. Participation in ceremony brings our being into alignment with the more natural flow and rhythm of life versus resistance. What's resistance? It's holding. It's defending or justifying why you're not, why one is not, why it's not happening, why it's not going to happen. It's holding. Again, it's holding in. It's holding down. Can't say that. I'll explode. It's holding on for dear life. Oh, I have to get through that. It's holding up when you're just feeling all that tension in your shoulders, when you're holding back. So it's getting back into alignment with our own natural flow and rhythm in life. And it reminds us how we are connected to the universe, to nature. And it helps us be more at peace. Again, to have relief and feel okay or satisfied or content when these changes come. Some of them knock us for a loop. And it's all about, I have experienced that every time a same situation keeps happening, whether it's a job, whether it's a relationship, whether it's a parenting style or a teaching style, anything, any interaction with other things, when it keeps repeating, it's giving us an opportunity to do it better, to do it wiser, because we have to do it different, or we're keeping attracting it. Does that make sense? Hold your question if you want to say, you're crazy. I don't think so. So all ceremonies are healing. They can affect not only our physical bodies with help lessening discomfort, our thoughts are the only thing we can control. And everyone, I could give one topic or one word, and everyone on this, in this place right now, would have a different feeling about it. And nonsense has been my big word this year. It's like, I keep getting overwhelmed by nonsense. It's all nonsense. Nothing's important. It is important, but it's nonsense for us to get all worked up about everything all the time. And so my point is that a miracle, Marianne Williamson always talked about it at church, about a miracle is a shift in perception, a shift in perspective, how we're going to look at it differently with how we think, and therefore our emotional charge is not going to be there. It's the emotional charge. An emotional charge. Some situations we feel so pissed off, angry, revved up about it. And then maybe a year, a feeling of crucified, and is it going to take us 3 days, 3 months, 3 years, 33 years, 50 years to suddenly, oh, it's like overnight. I really don't care about that anymore. You have no emotional charge. You still may not like the situation, the person, the event, the encounter, but that emotional charge. So ceremonies are healing and perhaps clarifying, prioritizing a thought, a belief. A belief is what we keep focusing on so we can change it, and our feelings about it. And then with our spirit self, our spiritual self, when we want to change things to be different without being a change, that's what is referred to as being not in your right mind, or crazy, or how's anything going to change if we don't start with one little change? And this is for self, others are communities. So does anybody not have a hectic pace of life? Technology, addictions, checking email all the time, online all the time, on the phone all the time. It's vital to it is vital to access spirit in order to help all that outer world stuff make more sense. One of the reasons they talk about meditation, the best to start in the morning, even if it's just for, I encourage people 5 to 10 minutes. You don't have to do much more than that. Meditating for 2 hours is not going to shift anything at a greater degree than if you're doing it 10 or 15 minutes. But starting it off in first thing in the morning sets the tone for the day differently. And I would bet money, and I'm not a bettor, that each one of you have some sort of little routine already in the morning that you do. And I'm going to be inviting you to consider a few other things to implement into that just take a minute or two, but can make a huge difference in how you move through your day when things come at you. People are hungry for ways to connect to the sacred and to learn how and to use practical ways and simple ways to cope with the problems, to gain insights, provide intuition. I came to understand the definition of a spiritual warrior is to learn to really listen to guidance and have the courage to follow it, faith-filled, without any evidence. And I've been striving for that, and it's going to be my life purpose for every day of my life. But it's people want a connection. People want a connection, and the intention of ceremony is to develop a way to slow down, to be mindful, to develop that habit, paying attention to the now, because life is lived in the now, right now, and right now, and right now, and right now. So when we are in a mindful situation, ceremony, being mindful, the past and the future can't hurt us, can't make us feel bad. I mean, when we are worrying about something, we're going through that worryful situation more than once, because we're worrying about going through it. We're worried about what happened and what's going to happen next. And then when we go through it again, we're worrying. So we're making double and triple and quadruple whammies of that worry. And so with ceremony, it can help slow down, be more mindful. It's adding the sacred of a higher power, the universe, the creator, to whoever or whatever it is that in the darkest of nights, you may be communicating to or wanting to hear from or know from, for that inner knowing. In adding that higher power, it lets us know that we are not alone, or without guidance, we get so easily overlooked in the fast pace of life. There's a ceremonialist from Arizona that says, ceremony is the intentful construction of the bridge, the segue, which spans the barriers that we've created between our soul and the mundane life. Through creation of ceremony, we allow the free movement of our soul into the mundane and of our consciousness in the realm of the soul. It's a two-way bridge. So I call the soul, what it means to me is it's a place where hope lives. Because if I don't have hope for something, then I'm down in the dumps. And that's being gentle and talking nicely. Carolyn Mace talks about a soul with stamina. Each morning, I ask my soul to go where I can't go, to go where I can't go, thus helping my soul to have more stamina. Since the beginning of time, shamans, tribal leaders, priests, ministers, they all considered themselves closer to God, and that the other humans needed a go-between and that they acted as a mediary, never taking it more. And some of the things, especially with, your indigenous tribes, not taking more from the living land than to return for it, looking for balance, reciprocal, I can't pronounce that word. And for prayers and praise, and they liked spiritual authority onto someone else. And then people would surrender theirs. So it's just kind of a natural progression since the 70s with the baby boomers and the 80s with the senses of empowerment, and all these years as each decade as it's moving forward, it's a natural progression that more and more people are asking questions and are hungry for more, yearning. So what people want from rituals? Just genuine, not fancy. No fancy words, no fancy outfits, no fancy stuff. Yes, props are great. Props are great. And it's just to enhance that connection to head and heart. I kind of look at it like meditation. There's so many kinds of meditations. I mean, I started meditating with transcendental meditation, giving myself away here. Yes, I learned it in 1973. And then over the years, I do all kinds of different ones, some guided, some talking, some not talking. I can just follow my breath and breathe and meditate. And I have to do that more often than with other kinds, just because I just don't want it. I don't need that anymore. But it's once you practice, we're an energetic human being. We are vibrating energy, and every cell in us, you learned this in science class back in 6th grade, 5th grade, 7th grade, every cell is contracting and expanding. And when we resist something, a situation, a person, a thought, an idea, anything that we just don't like, It can be that we set the table one way for company, and then someone else comes in and moves the placemats and the silverware different. Or the garage is organized with the toolbox and someone switches out the tools. That sets up resistance, and we're blocked. And we're blocked. And there may be pain. There may be there's all different levels, mind, emotions, body, spirit, that we're feeling blocked in. So it's, okay, I just lost where I was going with that. Okay, I'll move right on. Not fancy, just genuine. Oh yes, the props about trying to help us connect more to ourselves, It doesn't have to be pre-written. It doesn't have to be fancy words or specific words. Oh, help me now. Life's a mess. I just don't know how to go on. We don't have to speak for 5 minutes on what we're asking for. It's okay. Just speak your truth. It doesn't have to be an ordained officiant of any kind for a ceremony. It's just a spirit-filled consciousness, internal simplicity. Rituals and ceremony evoke a commitment from the heart, and we are healed as we allow ourselves to surrender. In our souls, Marianne Williamson says, our souls shall feel to have been bathed in light. Sometimes you go to a wedding or a child blessing or a funeral. And sometimes the tears, it's because it's like listening to the national anthem or being at a sports game, these moments when just we are in awe of that connection, and it's from inside us, not so much outside us. It evokes a feeling deep in our being. So, moving on. Are there any questions right now that I might address? Do you see any? Kat, I'm going to go on to about an altar and sacred space. Okay, so sacred space, thousands of years. It's a special, meaningful place. I put together a little, well, up here on my mantle, I did some leftover stuff of what I had yesterday. I recorded a summer solstice ceremony. So I have those colors and things and candles and abalone shells and flowers. I was heavy into flowers and candles yesterday, but right now I have this little one I created, and I will tell you more about it. But these things were just meaningful to me. I wanted to keep it simple. Right now it's a gibbous moon. I started ceremony over 30 years ago with following the moon cycles. New moon, new beginnings. Full moon, a second wind, or to follow through on what our intention was with the full moon. And the dark moon, the endings. With the new moon again, just within days to start the cycle again. But between the full moon and the dark moon is the gibbous moon. And its energies have to do with taking time for self in a very introspective way, extra time for contemplation, for meditation, for nurturing the self, with what we're eating, what we're drinking, with body movement, with just all those things of self-care. That's the time for it. And it's the gibbous moon right now. So I'm going to be doing a little mini ceremony with the gibbous moon. And with this, I want to just get through this and then I'll tell you more about the altar. So altars can be private, they can be public. You may even have some. It's wherever you have put. Okay, it doesn't have clutter on it. It's not where you dump your keys or your mail, but it's just a space that you have, like I said earlier, a piece of fabric, an object. It could have things from the 4 elements, something of water. Sometimes I'll put a little seashell. I have big seashells. I have little seashells. You could put a feather. I have this cool picture of an eagle. You could put, sometimes you have figurines of fish or manatees. I have this cool amethyst that has a manatee and its baby, rock for the north, the earth element, just fire, water, air, and earth. And you just check in with guidance. And, how does it feel? You're going to get a sense of, nope, don't want that there. Less is better. Don't get overwhelmed. Like I said, but even a little tea light on a little cloth napkin would be nice. Any could be a picture of a family memory, a trip. It could be anything special. Again, it's connecting your head and heart. This is your space to soothe you, to caress you and tenderly wrap you in the fact that you are not alone. Smudging is always an option. A lot of people use sage. I know people who smudge every single day, or other special objects. They could be buying something new, anything that's special to them. Sometimes people use sage. Sweetgrass calls it's a cleansing for negative energy, they say. And sweetgrass is to call in sweet spirits. There's just a number of things. It's whatever moves you. It's whatever moves you. And you don't have to get it all smoky and all that. You can just have it in a little, sometimes I'll have just a little tiny ashtray and just take a leaf or two and just light it. It doesn't have to be a big deal. You don't have to set off alarms and smoke up the house or smoke up the whole yard and the neighbors call the police department. That's not good. So, drums, rattles, movement, that's all optional. Answers are never that important. It's only the question. We have to start with the question. We have to start with the conversation. If there's never a conversation, we won't have answers, or we won't have other perspectives and thoughts. So it's letting go and releasing the outcome. So the 3 types of ceremony are healing ceremonies, but they're all healing, but it can be for physical, mental, or emotional healing. Transitions, change. We go through change all the time. We move. Someone in our family moves, our children move, our parents move. We go to school, we leave school, we go to work, we leave work. We have a relationship, we get married, we divorce, we leave a relationship, we have children, we want to dedicate or bless them. There's always changes. And then there's celebrations. Christmas, Hanukkah, Easter, Thanksgiving, summer season, Memorial Day. In this country, Memorial Day is the beginning of summer. 4th of July is the middle of summer. And Labor Day is the end of summer. Other cultures, for all these different holidays, per se, every culture around the Northern Hemisphere is doing something similar within that several week period around the world. In my ceremonies, I will usually give a little history lesson, not too long, but some people want to hear what other things are going on because they're universal themes. They're universal themes. With the solstices, we got, okay, the longest day of summer is Tuesday. The longest time of darkness is the winter solstice. We've got the spring and the autumn equinox. Those are cardinal points, 12 hours of day and light. Those are exact. And they coincide with the other 4 holidays that have to do with moving from winter to mid-spring, to spring, to summer, to midsummer. Solstice is also called Midsummer's Day. And autumn, and then midpoint of autumn. So, and it's all about growth. For example, when people are getting all depressed in November, end of October, November, around here, I'm constantly writing and posting, take time. The winter is a time for respite. I follow the seasonal cycles. It's for respite. What are you going to be planting come February 1st and on that holiday? What seeds are you planting? What is your intention? And then in the spring equinox, and in each one builds about what we're planting, how we're nourishing it, and how we're going to harvest it in the fall. And the cycle goes. If we can just start to use seasonal shifts as a touchstone with those 4 main points, I feel that's huge for people. If we can incorporate those other midpoints between them, so there's 8, and they're all listed on most calendars. Those are more touchstones. And then if you can add in the moons, variations, new moon, full moon, dark moon, it just adds more touchstones for our sense of self to, oh, it's another chance to begin again. Like every morning when I get up, another chance to begin again. I want to surrender my day. I want to say thank you and show me the way and give my soul some stamina today. It's always a chance to begin again because it's never too late. We are never too old. We are never too anything not to begin again. Elchai, Elchai wrote, to celebrate the normal, the ordinary, the everyday events of ceremony, the everyday events with ceremony, because your whole life is one magnificent ceremony, one long dramatic myth with you as its central character. Okay. All right, so the stages of ceremony, a start, a beginning, and an end. It's called separation because we're leaving ordinary. We're going into non-ordinary. There's transformation. It's the body of the ceremony, what we're going to be doing, what we're asking for, and we're going to see what is revealed to us. And then there's an ending. It's the incorporation of it. It's always 3 aspects. It's like death is a separation. Puberty is a transformation, as is menarche or menopause, or becoming a crone or an elder when you're deemed matriarch, patriarch. Baptism is an incorporation. They all parallel the cycles in life, like sunrise, it's daytime, and then it's sunset. There's a new moon, full moon, dark moon. There's death and rebirth. There's transformation and reincarnation, if you so look at it that way. So separation starts the ceremony, and it signifies something new that you'd like to invite into your life. And for what has been now, you want to leave the old behind. It's a large symbolic, everything is just symbolic or metaphorical. I mean, it's a gateway, it's a threshold. What's Jung say about a threshold? It's a call to adventure, a journey, a place or point of entering, leaving the threshold into liminal space. It's like the abyss, the black hole, the wilderness, and it can be the dark night of the soul. Sometimes a sacrifice. Okay, doesn't mean we're going to lose a limb. We're going to give away something, some way that just doesn't work for us anymore. We always get unexpected helpers. Again, this is according to Jung, and the hero or heroine always returns home with a gift. I mean, think of Frodo in Lord of the Ring. There's many stories like that. A gateway, it's like, have you ever heard of jumping the broom in a wedding ceremony? Because it's moving, it's just a gateway symbolic representation of moving from one state into another. And once you're standing before it, and for a few minutes before stepping across, you're committed to the release on the other side. I mean, even look as easy as walking a labyrinth. Have some of you ever walked a labyrinth? Because there's always a pausing before you enter. Like, what am I going to think about while I'm walking this pattern? And then once you're in there, to receive, to have something revealed. And then as you exit, what you're going to be committed to. I've been on some cool labyrinths. The neatest one was out, Georgia O'Keeffe, the famous artist, photographer, her ranch out in Santa Fe, New Mexico, is cool labyrinth, cool. So the transformation body of the ceremony is the actual ceremony. And that's when you're into ceremonial space. And that's where symbolic gestures. And then you plan your point forward, sometimes with anointing, sometimes a hands-on welcome, sometimes readings, sometimes with cards, if you feel so inclined. I used to run a healing arts center at a major health system here in the Detroit area, and I had about a dozen, no, more like 24 different kinds of oracle insight cards we had, and there was always people from administration that would come down and play with them, and we'd have people from the chapel coming down and not so happy with them. And it's like, you know, there's rabbis here, look at the deck from the rabbis. You know, everyone uses insight cards. It's just another tool. If it resonates with you, fine. And if it doesn't, don't. People will come in, you know, how many things do you offer here? I said, well, we offer acupuncture, we offer meditation, we offer yoga. I have these things over here. I said, but if you don't like needles, don't do acupuncture. If you don't believe in prayer, don't do prayer. If there's hundreds of ways for us to connect to ourselves, to open up our light and to feel better about ourselves and life. So you have to follow your instincts, your intuition, your feelings of goodness, nobody else's. And I have this client and she wants to make some big changes, and when all my husband and all my friends there, I just don't know what to say, and just, you know, I'm doing something different. I have a new bag to get into. Just don't explain, don't justify. You don't want to put yourself on the spot. Just do what you feel. And sometimes less is better. So at the ending of the ceremony, we're going back through the gateway, coming in from non-ordinary reality into ordinary reality. At a wedding, they're introduced, Mr. and Mr., Mrs. and Mrs., Mr. and Mrs. And we return and remember, and we're usually refreshed. One of the things about mind time, have any of you heard that word, mind time? Sometimes I use it a lot when I'm working with people to get them into deep relaxation or in meditations, about just a few moments of mind time, which is all the time in the world for your process to unfold. That's on the fact that the Iliad is a book written by a Greek poet, Homer. And it was about the Trojan War. And I was told, many of us were told, that that book he put together, the time it took, he knocked over his glass of water on his bedstand and he woke up, and before it had completely emptied. I mean, that's when he woke up, and the whole book came to him in that amount of time. So mind time, like I mentioned earlier, about we don't have to meditate for hours. It can be minutes that can shift. One time I had posted for people to do 11 deep breaths, the big, slow, deep breaths from the belly and up, and then reverse it from the belly out and down. 11 of them. It's like a cosmic reset. I used to use it with a lot of rehab patients when I do monthly relaxation. And I had people calling me and texting me saying, I just pulled off to the side of the road because I was so stressed out, and I did those 11 breaths, and what a difference. It'll take you 2 minutes. That's how we can chunk down our day. We have to get through the morning, get through the afternoon, get through the evening, get through the night. Sometimes we have to just get through breakfast with whoever we're eating with. Sometimes we have to just get through that meeting, whatever encounter it is. And so I highly encourage, I used to tell every shift, every department, if you have to go every hour, leave the room, go to the bathroom. Everyone can go to the bathroom, and for 2 minutes, take your 11 breaths. It is a cosmic reset. So ceremony, there's an intention. We start, we end, we create sacred space. So we have some ingredients here. So with this, just looking at the time. Okay. So with this, I like these sparkly little beads here. These are Boji stones. I use them in healing work with people sometime. It's masculine and feminine energy, and it's to bring about balance. because I'm focused on a moon ceremony right now, I have a black and white candle because there's going to be a releasing with the black and an ask for, wish, hope, or dream in the white with the white candle. And the feminine aspects of the moon, Diana, Selene, Hecate, it's the 3-in-1 triple goddess. But I always like the silver candle to remind me, my heart and mind, of that feminine aspect of intuition and guidance. And yes, we need the masculine aspect. We all need the balance of the masculine and the feminine, because I'm sure some of you have heard people say that to do, doing. And then being. Doing's okay. That's the masculine energy in us. However, the more connected with the feminine energy, like during this gibbous moon, to allow our intuition and our authentic self and our yearnings to connect with our light, we get inspired action, and then we can go and do and manifest in a whole different way. It's like the power of play and doing pleasurable things has more movement than any amount of efforted work. So I like to, feminine. And then I have my little moon candle here. So I guess now's as good a time as any. Would everyone like to just kind of settle into a comfortable space? Letting yourself feel completely supported on whatever you're sitting or lying on. And just close your eyes. In closing our eyes, the visual activity takes up about 90% of our brain activity. So if we just close them, it allows us to connect with our other senses and with our internal self much more fully. So we want to breathe in and breathe out. And just imagine that there's sparkling, glistening white light hovering above your head. And we're just going to let it flow down and flow down and flow down from our head, our scalp, our eyelids, breathing in and breathing out, down our ears, chin, neck, shoulders, down our arms, all the way to our wrists and hands. Uncurl your fingers. And from your upper chest, your upper back, your shoulder blades, your scapula, down through your upper chest, down your rib cage, down your sides, your mid-gut and belly, breathing in and breathe it out. And into your hips and pelvis, your sit bones. Just breathing in relaxation and breathing out tension. Down our upper thighs, hamstrings, knees, calves, shins, ankles, feet, and toes. Breathe in. And breathe out. Isn't it nice to know you can allow your process to unfold at a pace that is just right for you? And you can return to this at any time you want. Right now, we've come together to contemplate and to go deep within, to come together in the sacred circle, in the sacred space. And we call upon archangels, guides, messengers, and loved ones of the East. Please join us. And we invite in the archangels, guides, messengers, and loved ones of the South. Please join us. We call upon archangels, guides, messengers, and loved ones of the West. Please join us. We call upon archangels, guides, messengers, and loved ones of the North. Please join us. We call upon spirits of the ancients, spirit center, as above and below. We call upon you all to guide us, to hold us. Be here now. Following your breath, we've come together to let go of a thought pattern or behavior, a way that's just not working for us. We've come to surrender any physical discomfort, uncomfortable feelings in our physical body. We've come to let go of a way that we be in our lives that's just not working. We ask for an inward inspiring of non-resistance, of ease and flow, of harmony. We want an infilling of thoughts that feed our life and our body temple. We ask for well-being and to feel satisfied and content with all that is. Be eager for that what is yet to be. So take a moment of mind time, which is all the time in the world, to release and surrender and to let go of that which is not serving. Take a breath. Interesting insights. And so now, take a moment to ask for, to listen and to hear inward inspiring, an infilling of whatever you need. I don't know, but you do, that will feed your life and your body for well-being, for relief, and eagerness for what is yet to come. Take a few moments. Oh, more interesting insights. More interesting insights. And with that, we begin to return. We are returning to this place, remembering what we need to remember, refreshed and revitalized. Returning to this place, remembering what we need to remember, refreshed and revitalized. Returning to this place, remembering, refreshed and revitalized. And we are back. We are back. And we say thank you, archangels, guides, messengers, and loved ones of spirit, as above and so below. We thank you for being in our circle. It is done. Merry meet and merry part. And we thank you, archangels, spirit guides, and loved ones of the north. Thank you for being here, for joining us in our circle. It is done. Merry meet and merry part. We thank you, archangels, messengers, guides, and loved ones of the West. Thank you for being here in our circle. It is done. Merry meet and merry part. We thank you, archangels, messengers, guides, and loved ones of the South. Thank you for being here in our circle. It is done. Merry meet and merry part. We thank you, archangels, messengers, guides, and loved ones of the East, for being in our circle. It is done. Merry meet and merry part. We thank you all for being here. Leave if you must, stay if you will. Blessed be. So what I'll be doing with all these candles is I'm going to let them burn down. Normally I use mini candles for everything because they burn down in less than half an hour or thereabouts, depending on what kind of breeze you have. And the large ones, I'll be using these through the solstice and watching them burn down with all sorts of hopes and prayers for many in them. That was just a mini sampling. So one of the key things is breath. We are a culture of shallow breathers. It's so important for breath, so important for breath. Just different breathing practices can be your own ceremony for calming down. There's many symbols. People can call in the directions. People can call in the elements. People can call in anything, nothing, just spirit, some loved one, a person that's gone beyond. Just, it can be whoever you want. Remember, genuine and intention, not fancy, but authentic. Sacred objects, things that are meaningful to you. Music expression. Healers throughout the world recognize the importance of retrieving the 4 universal healing salves. They are called storytelling, singing, dancing, and silence. Shamanic societies believe that when we stop singing, when we stop dancing, or are no longer enchanted by stories, or become uncomfortable in silence, have experienced soul loss, which opens up the door to discomfort and dis-ease. So I ask each of you, when was the last time you sang? When was the last time you danced? And I mean really danced and really sang. And when was the last time you felt comfortable in silence? It can even be when you're on a walk with a friend or sitting in a room on the couch with someone. To be comfortable in your own silence. And storytelling. I love storytelling. I love storytelling. When I used to work midnights at the hospital or afternoons, I was always asking other people on the shifts, because everyone has a story, especially if I knew they were that they had immigrated. Like, how did that happen? How was that? And just stories. Everyone has a story. And that's one of the key things with spiritual direction, spiritual coaching, spiritual concierge, whatever you want to. When you're working with someone, every human being needs to share and be validated for their experience. When I sit with someone and I create a space, I see them whole. I do my best to be really grounded so I'm not seduced by the stories. I acknowledge, I honor, I bless. But everyone is striving for wholeness. Our psyche, according to Carl Jung, our psyche is always striving for wholeness. We are all striving for wholeness. Yet for some of us, It's at some aspects in our life are whole. And there are one or two that just kind of mess with us. So ceremony, these storytelling, these things can contribute to that. So singing, chanting, storytelling, you can use herbs, essential oils. Some ceremony, I'm just going to go through these real quick. I mean, there's everyday rituals for mourning, for appreciation, for inner guidance. All of these can be combined into a 10 or 15-minute process. There's rites of passage, New Year, new homes, celebrating birthdays. You can do more than sing birthday and have a cake. You know, you can create, there's many different ways to create memories from the year before and to gift these in a little booklet for the person. Just lots of different ideas. I did a whole bunch of retirement ceremonies for people. That's a huge shift. It's a huge shift, retirement. Man, then what do you do? So many people identify with what they do versus who they are. I have a client right now, she just has no clue. She's no clue because she just worked all the time and she's at a loss, feels irrelevant and worthless. Anybody feel that way ever? Moving through stressful times, relationships, commitments, appreciating coworkers, honoring the ancestors, group bonding, connecting with, for men, connecting with the father, sharing, appreciating the feminine, prenuptial, ceremonies on menarche, on menopause, on some ceremonies I've done included women, not a bridal shower, but a small circle of women and gifting tokens, symbolic things. Men, I did this really awesome. Yes, I'm saying I was really awesome. My son, before he had a child, I had a group of about 8 men. There were tears from all these men, just honoring him with these tokens that just blew us away, and stories. It's honoring each other for what we are going through. And it lifts us and it shifts our mood. So there's many, 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 many kinds. So as I'm looking at the time, if we got some questions.
Well, Jill, we are running out of time, and I wanted you to have the opportunity to talk about what you're offering and your group and what people should know about you, how to contact you. I've been putting your information in the chat.
The information's in the chat. So my passion has always been ceremony, individuals, groups. I love that. And I'm also a healing arts practitioner. I do a variety of things. I have classes on my website. We'll be posting more things for July, August, and then through the fall. I'm doing a class currently live locally on the 3 major coping strategies, inner world coping strategies, and incorporates all experiential, very little talking, grounding. We need to be grounded. We need to be grounded. Most of the planet's not grounded. We cannot be grounded enough. Breathing, many kinds of breathing, and meditation, many kinds of meditation. Some people try one thing and, oh, it's not my bag, but there's so many other bags. I have many bags to open and share. I have classes coming. What I'm going to be doing monthly now, I've been doing ceremony for 30 years, every 6 weeks, following that calendar. What I'm going to do is offer them also each month one moon ceremony. So it will vary month to month. And I'm going to be doing one of these other types of ceremonies. And I listed them for self-care and how to help cope with change, how to help cope with fear. Some of them will be live. Otherwise, they're Zoom recorded. They'll be on my website. You can sign up. It's a donation. Donations start as low as $2. Everyone can afford $2. I don't ever like to not allow, I don't ever want any ceremony I ever do to be prohibitive due to cost, because everyone is worthy of ceremony and needs ceremony in their life. And some things have, and then I work with individual clients, spiritual coaching and energy healing, and it's all on my website. Thank you so much for being here.
So does anybody have any questions in the last few minutes? Thank you, Jill.
My pleasure.
And did you mention your summer solstice ceremony is coming up? When is summer solstice?
Oh, yes, yes. I did pre-record it yesterday. It was outdoors at my cousin's house in the country. And there's an episode where two roosters are talking to each other and the chickens were clucking and there were dragonflies and sun and trees waving. So it's definitely out in nature. And so it's a 35-minute ceremony, includes 2 deep meditation guided things. And yeah, so that was really cool being outside. And
is it tomorrow? Summer solstice?
Tuesday. Summer solstice is Tuesday at 9:30 a.m. I hope to have it available because those who sign up and register, you know, then I'll be emailing and I'll email it to people. Yes, check it out.
I'm used to you calling in the directions and the elements. And I mean, today was just such a small, I mean, it was lovely. And I don't know if anybody wants to comment on what they brought back with them, like any insights that happened. I noticed that the directions, when you called in the directions, I felt surrounded. It was kind of cool, like the East, the archangels and everybody from the East, and as it went around the circle, I could just like feel it coming around me. And then I felt like I was sitting. So that's like one of the things you described as going into another dimension, or, you know, the liminal space. Really, you're so good at creating that. Anybody else want to say anything about what happened or have any other questions? Maxine says, Jill, you really know how to create a sense of community. And then there's a lot of thank yous over in the chat.
So just a reminder to everyone, on awkwardlyzen.com, when you're signed in to your account, whether it's the free level or the paid, it doesn't matter. You get access to your Zen page there. And on that, in the next couple of days, this recording will be there. And so make sure you check for that. And a really cool way to use some of the recordings is you can find that ceremony that Jill just did for us and go through it again on your own time, which is beautiful. And then also obviously find Jill and go check out all of her information, all the amazing things that she offers.
Well, I hope everyone has a day like no other, with more aspects of light filling you up.
Awesome. Well, Kat, thank you so much for introducing us to Jill. And Jill, thank you so much for your time today. I absolutely appreciate you. And thank you to all of you for being a part of this awesome community and holding space for Jill to teach us about something that she obviously has so much passion for, which is beautiful. So thank you all so much for being here, and we will see you next time. There's lots of fun stuff coming up, so be watching all of the events on Meetup or on awkwardlyzen.com. Bye, guys.